Okay, so welcome back to my channel. I'm just going to continue on with my recap of Marry My Husband Season 1, Episode 2. So, Ji-won is doing everything she can to really avoid Soo-min and Min-hwan. But, unfortunately, when you work with the people you hate the most, there are going to always be situations that throw you guys together. And, of course, arriving at work at the same time happens. It's going to happen often, right? So she's standing on the other side of the security gate. She could see Soo-min at the elevator, and I guess she was hoping that she would get on and that she would just catch another one, but no, to no avail. Soo-min saw her and basically waved her over. And so she reluctantly, the fake smile, and she reluctantly went over. So now it's her, Soo-min, and Mr. Kim, the jerk manager. They're now on the elevator. Just before the door closes, Mr. Yu, who is the general manager, they're the owner, I guess, or maybe I think he's maybe the owner's nephew. He gets on the elevator, and before the door can even close good, Mr. Kim starts in on Ji-won about her proposal and how it better not be crap and da-da-da-da-da-da.
야, 강조이, 너 그 기획안 제대로 하고 있어? 이번에도 메롱하면 나 진짜 안 참아.
And then he started talking about how she was holding her coffee and, how she was lazy and how, people don't want to work. It was all this crazy stuff. So Mr. Yu got tired of it and he basically slammed his fist on the wall. And of course that made everybody jump, but it also made everybody shut the hell up, right? So they eventually make it to their floor. And just as Ji-won was about to get off, Mr. Yu told her to wait to come back. And so he ended up going to the roof with her. And he was quiet. He really didn't say too much. And he basically said that he brought her up there so she could drink her coffee in peace. And so, she really didn't have to hear, the nonsense that Mr. Kim was saying. And, of course, she thanked him. And she also, talked about how she decided she wasn't going to quit. Because if you remember in the first episode, he was, asking her based on the books that she purchased that maybe she was thinking about, moving on, and starting a family, but she told him that she wasn't going to quit. And then she pulled out the folded bill that had the heart on it that her father gave her. And as she was explaining the meaning of that, you could see him kind of analyzing the bill like it was something familiar to him.
아빠가 주신 건데요.
And so, she talked about how proud her father was and how, what a wonderful guy he was. And, she thanked Mr. Yu for his encouragement, basically saying that she was, a talented person and, the company didn't want to lose her. So eventually he got around to asking her what she had planned for Sunday. Now, of course, her stalker, aka BFF, is always lurking somewhere. So out of nowhere, you hear Soo-min saying, oh, well, she has plans this Sunday.
지원이 주말은 제가 이미 예약이요.
And then she tells him that she made plans at a particular restaurant for them on Sunday. And when he heard the name of the restaurant, again, he had this look on his face like he kind of is something familiar to him. And so he went on into the building and Soo-min was like, well, let's go get some coffee. But of course, Ji-won is like, I have to work. And so she couldn't go. So now Soo-min's on the elevator feeling away. So Mr. Yu goes back to his office. And the first thing he does is he calls the restaurant to basically confirm the reservation. He also made a call to someone to ask them to look up another person that Ji-won had attended school with. So just as he was getting off the phone with them, Ji-won came in and she had some pain medication. I guess she assumed that his fist was hurting from when he slammed it on the wall of the elevator in the elevator. And so, she was being thoughtful. And so he basically told her, he kind of split the pills with her and basically saying, well, maybe you probably need this more than I do. Didn't you just bang your knee up? So he gave her some of the pills and they said their goodbyes and she went to her desk to continue to work. But of course, her other stalker, Min-hwan, he can see this interaction, and no sooner than she sat at her desk, he's now texting her, messaging her, saying that basically he wanted to talk to her. So as they were walking out, Mr. Yu and Miss Yang saw them leave, and you can see kind of a concerned look on Miss Yang's face. So he ends up basically pulling her into a supply closet and asking her, so is this why we're breaking up? Because of something going on with you and Mr. Hugh. And I'm probably butchering that man's name, but sorry. And she was kind of playing around with him. She's like, oh, do you think that because he asked me to get him some pain medication, which he didn't? And so, of course, Min-hwan is in this fake outrage. Like, why would he do that? He shouldn't be asking you to do that. And I'm going to go and da-da-da. So she basically had to play it off and was like, well, no, actually, I broke it off because, I felt like the relationship had changed and basically you wasn't, really wasn't giving me, a lot of attention. Just kind of landed on like, schmoozing his ego. And of course he bought it. And basically like, you know what, no worries, I'm going to, I'm going to work on spending more time with you and da-da-da-da-da.
내가 좀 마음이 식은 것 같다 생각해갖고 삐진 거였어?
So now he's trying to go in for a kiss. She doesn't want to kiss him. He's basically trying to force her to kiss him. And it got to the point where he had her pinned up against one of the shelves and he was about to kiss her. She was about to brain him with a wrench. And Miss Yang, I guess, knew something was up and she opened the door just in time. And of course he skedaddled. And so as they were walking back to the office, she basically told her, to be careful and to be mindful and that, she made a lot of mistakes when she was younger and just told her, basically told her to just look out for yourself. And of course, Ji-won was like, I wonder if she came because she sensed that something was off. So now it's lunchtime and they're trying to decide where they're going to go for lunch. Ji-won decided she's going to go to like the cafeteria in the building and Sumi and Min-hwan decide they're going to go with her. Ji-won noticed that Sumi was piling food on her plate. So she's like giving her the side eye, like, why is she getting so much food? And then there was a flashback of a similar incident where Sumi did that and she basically knocked Ji-won over and knocked all of her food from her tray fell on her. And so of course now people in the cafeteria are looking at her like, what the hell is going on with her? So because she remembered this, when Sumi tried that same tactic, she was ready for her behind and she went head first into Min-hwan and all her food and his food was all over the place. So Min-hwan asked her to go to the bathroom to get some napkins. So while she was in the bathroom went into the bathroom to get napkins, she ends up running into Hyo. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And she's this young, bubbly, a woman who was in the bathroom whose experience was similar to most women where, Aunt Flo came and wasn't really prepared. And so Ji-won helped get her sorted. And so, of course, she was very gracious and thankful. And, of course, Ji-won was like, well, no, I didn't do anything anybody else would not have done. And she was like, well, no, because there was a lady in here before you and I asked for help. And basically she didn't, she just walked out. She didn't help me. So Ji-won ended up inviting her to have lunch with them. So now they're sitting down for lunch. And Ji-won basically thought that Min-hwan was going to really have an attitude about this shirt. It's a kind of a high ticket item. It's a very expensive shirt that's now ruined because all the food had fallen on it. And so, of course, Sumi is playing that old innocent, like, oh, I'm just a contractor. I just don't have much money. And, and he reluctantly kind of brushed it off. So you can kind of see in Ji-won's face like, oh, okay, I thought that was going to go a lot different. So, while this was going on, Mr. Hyo had gone to a restaurant and he ended up talking to a chef named, is it Yoon Ho? I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And he ended up, pulling him to have a conversation with him. So we go back to the cafeteria where they're kind of trading quips, talking about healthy appetites and, who has the healthiest appetite, and Min-hwan ends up making some comment about Ji-won, and Sumi ends up kind of halfway defending her, and Min-hwan said, you're lucky to have a friend like Sumi. Ji-won almost choked on her damn food, you hear me? So, Hyo got up to go get her a glass of water, and so, of course, Sumi was like, well, can you grab me a glass of water too? And she was like, well, basically, why would I do that? She said, well, you're going anyway. And Hyo basically said, well, I'm at work today, but you're at work today. So since you're here, do you want to do my job? Like, it was like this really snarky comment, and she sat there with her eyes all bugged out, and she just went on to get water.
일하러 회사 온 정수민 씨. 제 일도 대신해 주실래요?
So Ji-won sat there for a little bit longer, and she ended up eventually leaving, and she actually met up with Yeho, and she was like, she annoys her, and she realized, she ended up admitting that she know that Sumi was a woman that she asked for help that kind of left her hanging. So they're now leaving, I guess, to go back to work. Sumi sees them leaving together, laughing, having a good time, and of course that, has her in a mood. So now they're in a conference, they're in a meeting, and Mr. Kim is with the BS again. He doesn't like the way the proposal is formatted. He doesn't like the way it was stapled. He's just so incompetent and inept that he just finds anything to nitpick, right? And so he wants Yeho to do the copies again and staple it a different way. So while they're doing that, Sumi walks over to Mr. Kim and basically says she wanted to talk to him about a proposal she has. So they leave, and it's basically a break until they get the new copies. So Ji-won ends up taking her proposal and giving it to Miss Yang to read over. Now, of course, her stalker is lurking somewhere in the back, so she sees this interaction. She can't hear what's going on, but she sees this interaction. And so as Ji-won was running, around the corner, she ends up bumping into Sumi. And of course, she was like, well, why are you in such a hurry? What's going on? And, she was like, oh, do you want to go and get some coffee? And, of course, Ji-won was like, well, no, I already have plans with Min-hwan. Maybe later. She runs off. Shortly after she runs off, Miss Yang walked past reading the proposal, and you kind of see the look on Sumi's face. So we flash to Miss Yang. She's still reading, analyzing the proposal, and she's on the roof at this point. And so Ji-won ends up meeting her up there. She tells her it's a good proposal, and Ji-won is like, well, do you want to work on this with me? And so she was like, well, that's really not how things work. It has to go through a process, and Mr. Kim, and she was basically like, he's a buster. Like, he's crap. Everybody knows that he's incompetent, basically. And Mr. Yang is basically, she's that employee that toes the line. She, the chain of command and the whole thing. And Ji-won basically had to inform her that he never reads any of these proposals.
넘기는 척하긴 했는데.
And so, of course, initially Miss Yang doesn't believe her. And so they have an agreement. Ji-won is going to submit the exact same proposal that was rejected before. And if that Miss Yang just read know that it's a fabulous proposal. And if that happens, then she's going to know that he's not actually reading these things. He's just rejecting them just because. And then she'll, do what she needs to do so that they can work on this project together. So they're back in the office, and she hands Mr. Kim the proposal. And he was like, I can't believe that you would do this again. Da, 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 da. Of course, he then goes into this, you're incompetent, blah, blah, blah. She is so conciliatory, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I gave you the wrong proposal. So the initial proposal that she gave him had white pages. So she said, oh, this is the proposal that I did today. So she went and got the other copy, which is green.
과장님 죄송해요.
뭐예요?
The same proposal, just a different color of paper. And so for some reason, that got accepted. So that's when she knew that, this was when Yang knew that basically her boss was full of crap. And so they're now in the kitchen that they're celebrating Miss Yang, Ji-won, and Hyo. And so, of course, Sumin is on the outside watching this, and then she goes over to kind of look at the proposal, and she now has this plan that she's trying to put together. So later that night, Ji-won is still at work, and she noticed that Sumin left this gift on her desk. It's these box of earrings that she want her to wear to on Sunday. And then she has this flashback of her some years ago with those exact same earrings. Sumi called her, basically making it seem like it was going to be like just her. They were just going to be hanging out a casual night. So she comes to the restaurant basically in sweats, only to find out that it's actually their class reunion. And everybody else is kind of put together, and she's there in a hoodie and a baseball cap. So she eventually finds her way into the bathroom, and then the mean girls basically go in and they're talking trash about her. And then she has a flashback of how horrible these girls were to her, how horrible these girls were to her. They're like throwing milk at her, like for some reason these girls hated her. So the whole time she's at work, Sumi and Min-hwan are texting her saying that they're on their way to her apartment, but of course they don't know that each other is texting her saying that they're on their way to her apartment. So as she was leaving, she runs into Mr. Hugh. Is that his name? Mr. Hugh? And he see the box, and he noticed that he was like, that those are fake and that people can tell. And she has a flashback of having this exact same conversation with him before. And she's starting to remember that she knew him in her previous life, but she still really can't put it together. So she's reading so they talk and say their goodbyes. And remember, Min-hwan and Sumi are texting her, and so she feel like, okay, maybe this is going to be the time where I'm going to walk in and see them together in bed. So she makes her way home, and unfortunately, Sumi texts her, well, not unfortunately, but Sumi texts her, basically saying that she's going to go home. And the shower is running, and Min-hwan is in there. He comes out, trying to seduce her, basically strips the towel off, and she is just basically disgusted. And that's how this episode ends. So, a lot happened. Like I said, these episodes are like an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 7 minutes. So a lot of some other things happen. Obviously, I can't capture everything in 10 to 15 minutes, but that is the end of episode 2. And I guess I will talk to you guys in the next video.